Okay, guys. Today we're going to build a automatic TikTok scraper that gives us kind of analytics, shows us how all of our accounts are doing, as well as the posts and the frequency of posting that is taking place on that account. I've used this in multiple different, or used like similar kind of variations of this in multiple different cases. One of them being monitoring if our OnlyFans creators were actually posting the videos we sent them to post, how many posts were they doing per day, how many views were they getting, what locations were they appearing in, what type of times were they posting at, and all that type of stuff. But in this case, this is going to be another like real world example. And we're actually going to be working off a real world database, like a live database that we use in our Tinder outsourcing agency, basically. So I just want to monitor what all of the employees are doing, how well the accounts are performing, if there's an issue with a specific account, if it's not getting views, that we trigger some type of alert on that to get it looked into. And again, this is what I mean about kind of having the hybrid of automation and people kind of coming together. It really kind of changes what's possible. Otherwise, we would need to be paying for a manager. And we would then be relying on that manager to monitor. There's about 1,500 TikTok accounts in this database. So it would be someone's job to go through every single day to log how many TikToks were posted, what time were they posted at, how many views did they get, how many followers does it have, how many following does it have, and do that 1,500 times per day. It just simply wouldn't be possible. So in this scenario, people will often be quite surprised that that I use real people for posting, despite the fact that you can like schedule posts on TikTok, and there would be ways to do that. Whenever we tried things like that, we always just found the views were very, very low. So in this case, we use people to do the posting of TikToks, because I'm just a big advocate of using the best tool for the job. As much as I don't mean to refer to people as tools, in this case, that is what we are using them as. They are another cog in the machine of this essentially TikTok automation. So we use people for doing what they're best at, which in this case is posting on phones. We use GPT to write the captions and so on, but this automation is going to have large scale monitoring of all of the TikTok accounts, and it can scale with the team. So this automation could monitor tens of thousands of TikTok accounts. The only limiting factor would be the size of the Airtable database. So with that quick lecture and introduction over with, let's come straight into it. So like I said, this is our like live database. So I'm just going to kind of close all that. You can see, ignore all of this. We're just going to be working from the TikToks field. Again, this is a live database of our agency, which is what all the other stuff is up above. This is a quick view that I've made. I've hidden the passwords just because we don't want anyone getting hacked. And yeah, we've got 1,500 records here. I just put a quick filter on name exists and status is not banned. So let's go ahead. And one thing I think I'm going to have to do actually is extend the permissions of the API that I made. There we go, save changes, okay. Cool, let's come in, let's put together a new scenario. So to start off with, we will just do like the kind of like the basics of checking how many followers each profile has. We can get the profile picture, we can get the bio. We could also do a follower following history, in fact, if we did want to see like the evolution of the account. So my general idea will be to get all of the data into the database, and then we can look at building out some like dashboards and graphs and so on. And I'll then put them up on my TVs here for for monitoring. So we come into TikToks, and the view that I made was, we've got a lot of views here. Course view. Here we go. Course view, okay. And for now, the only piece of data I need is the name. Normally I wouldn't check this, but I just don't want to pull in all of the passwords, because then I have to go through and edit out all the confidential information, and it just becomes a load of work. But if you're just doing it yourself, you can just leave that unchecked, and we'll take 100 accounts. And then we're going to put in an HTTP module, and we're going to send an API request to a TikTok API. So first off, let's get a TikTok API, scrape video, no watermark, but actually we're more interested in this type of stuff. Scraptic. So whenever I come into a new API, I'll just check that the popularity and the service level are high. I'm not actually sure what service level means, but if it's a low score, generally they don't work. But popularity, of course, you can guess what it means. Get user, let's just check the response here. So that contains all the information that we need. It contains the followers. Yeah, okay. So that is what we want. So we'll take this API and a slightly expensive API, actually, 10 million requests per month. I don't know that we need that many. Yeah, 5,000 requests per day for $5. So we just saved ourselves $95 there. These are very, very cheap, actually, compared to the Instagram APIs. Very cheap. So we'll do this request. Get data by username. Copy this as always. Back up here, it's a get request, URL is there, and we can see that the page they're scraping on the end there. Headers, rapid API key, and the host. That's that. And then we just want to delete Nike, and we put the username there. Get request raw JSON, and pass the response. Let's just do a quick test. Cool, and we got a 200 response, which means it's okay. Update a record. Record ID there. This database needs to be cleaned up, to be honest. I will be the first to admit it's a bit of a mess. We've just done so many projects with our team within this database. There's 2 followers fields, and I'm not sure what each of them is being used for. Following. And we've got 2 following fields as well. Profile image. Can take that one. And just to make a few more fields as well, like for example, to have the bio, I think would be quite good. What other data do we get back from there? Bio URL, also a good one. Okay. Bio. Sorry. Bio URL and I think Nike doesn't have a bio. Let's try scraping another profile. Yeah, signature. Okay. Okay, so these are scraping, and I think what I'm going to do is put a followers, and let's clean up this database a little bit. If you remember in like the other video I mentioned, like kind of like the lack of control over Airtable, like this is kind of what happens when you set 20 people loose on a database, and they have the ability to create fields and so on. You end up with like duplicate fields and it becomes a bit of a mess. But to be honest, this is nothing compared to before when we had our 130 employees working from one database. Sort by 9 to 1. We can remove that grouping actually. Yeah, okay. So they are getting updated. We had an error here. And so this is the first time I think we've used this. In fact, we'll put an error handler on there. So the error is that it hasn't got a profile picture scraped, which like we don't really care about. So we'll just ignore that as an error so that it doesn't interrupt our scraping experience. And so, okay, then I'm just going to add on another filter, and in fact, let's put a new space. Let's just clean this up again. Nathan scraping. copy from another view, choose view, course view, copy the filters from there, and then we will rename this followers last checked, and we will filter out followers checked is today. Okay, and now we can come in and put in a new view, followers scraped today. Followers last checked is today. Okay. And then just for the sake of it, let's just sort by following. Cool. Ignore on there as well. And so we can always just go through at the end and check what the errors were. It's also not an issue. Okay, those are scraping now. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is, again, I'm just going to hide some fields here as most of them aren't needed. Okay, cool. Post checked today. So now what we're going to do is scrape the posts of these pages. So the way we're going to do that is we are going to make another database. I'm going to bring up here. Okay, to another record. Cool. Delete that, delete that, delete that. Okay, description, sound, views, likes, comments, video, video link, timestamp, should be good. Okay. Cool. So now we can come and we can turn this path off. We can go ahead and do a let's do a router there. And then over here, let's do bundle order position equal to 1. Let's clone from there. And now we just need to change the view. Which is no longer course view. It should be followers scraped today. Cool. And get users feed by username. Okay, and it will scrape 20 records at a time, which I think for us is actually fine. Let's go ahead and grab that. Let's make a new HTTP request, make a request, paste that in there. That can go. We may actually be at a point now in this course where you realize that we can just clone from here because the headers are always the same. Not right now, because the headers are always the same. And down here, we can take this, and then it would only be like the URL and maybe like the query parameters that we need to change. Anyway, that is done. Max cursor, I don't think we really need because we're not scraping huge amounts of data. That's all fine. Delete that. Okay. Name, pass the response, and then we're going to want to add an iterator on here. And okay, we need to get some data, so we'll run this once. We'll scrape Nike. in there. And okay, similar to what we did before, we're going to do a search records, but let's just clone from there to keep it faster. I'm going to be searching in this. Sorry. Description equal to description is not equal to description. Cool. In fact, maybe we should do something other than description, because often people do use the same description. So let's do something more unique. Video, let's use, yeah, it's much better. Video ID. Posts. Description. Okay, cool. Video ID not equal to this. Create a record. The condition ID does not exist. Then we will create a record. Video ID. So we can take all types of interesting data from here, such as like the quality of the video, the length of the video. You can see all this metadata, loudness, range, and all this information that TikTok tracks. Which, by the way, if you want to do reposting of videos, you should look at changing the sounds. And here we can also see some interesting things like this is like all TikTok's internal data. So is it prohibited? Was the video reviewed? Review, that could mean one review or it could mean true. Rate, I'm not sure what that refers to. But we just get tons of data returned to us. So you can kind of pick as much as you want, but definitely some interesting data there. So first off, we want to know number of plays. Play count is what refers to views. Statistics. Here we go. Doesn't give us a like count. Interesting. No like count, just comment count. No. Interesting. That's fine. Video ID. Sorry, a link to the video. So Airtable will actually download this for us automatically. Play URL video. Cool. A link to the video. Share URL, and then we're going to take the created time. So what we actually want to do here is we need to format. I'm going to forget how to do this now. Yeah, okay, that's what we want into X. And let me just change the field timestamp in here to a date time field. Date time, include time, display time zone, 12-hour. I have a feeling that it's going to throw an error, but let's see. No, works. Brilliant. I don't know why I thought that would give us an error. So now we can see the exact how many posts were done for each creator. For example, grouped by TikToks. One mistake I've made. Slow down for a minute. We need to link it back to our main TikTok, which is this one. That can all be deleted. Let's run that again. We'll just add an error handler on here as well. Okay. So these are now being linked back up to their main profile. That is what they're grouped by. So we can see kind of the exact posting frequency. Cool. Okay, so that is working. And so then what we're going to do is filter by. We'll do another last modified field. TikTok posts, use field, create field. Now we're just going to filter those out. Is not today. Posts check today. And then in here, we're going to add in the filter. Add filter, post are scraped is today. Okay. I haven't got OCD, but the fact that we have active set to pink does annoy me a little bit. Change that to green. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we can get, this is the first time where we're really going to play around with like roll-up fields. So total TikToks scraped, scraped. And we're going to do a roll-up. And this is going to count the total number of TikTok posts that are linked to each record. So we can count by any, and we can just do count count number of non-empty values. Sorry, not non-empty values. Count A. That's the one. Counts number of non-empty values. So on this page, we have 4 TikToks. On this, we have 26, 27, 25, 25, 4. And now we can just make some fields of timestamp is within the past number of days, 7. So posts last 7 days on these accounts is only 1, which does seem a little bit low. Just going to verify that. Yeah, could be the case. So another way to check it will be TikTok posts. And now we can just open up to see, was this posted in the last 7 days? No. Okay. That is working. And then we can do, let's say, posts last 14 days. Sorry, past number of days, that's why. Okay. Let's get a 30-day overview, the past number of days, 30. Yeah, okay. So now we have an overview of like the frequency of posts, how many posts are being done. That's in the last 30 days. Last 60 days. And let's even do some like posts today and posts last 2 days. It's also very 7 days. Is today. So these have had posts on them today, and that tells us how many. Okay, so yeah, I hope that makes sense. And like we could always like shorten them down. These are quite long fields. Like I know it's always going to be 30 days, so you could structure it like that, for example, just to give yourself smaller fields. And then we can also, I'll just give like a few other examples, like average views. So we can choose number of views. It won't last in me. Okay, we'll go with average then. know why that is. Views needs to be a numeric field. So if you're ever wondering why to go through the effort of making all fields correct, it's because some Airtable features are kind of specifically linked into needing that. So we can sort by average views and see the average number of views each account gets, which can also give us an idea if something is shadow banned. For example, this only has an average of 11 views, which isn't a good sign. Bearing in mind, a lot of these accounts will actually be brand new accounts. So they're starting from zero. So we're not expecting them to be pulling in millions, but we can kind of see a very clear difference, right? And sorry, that's one thing I forgot, sound. So we could also like always have a kind of way of monitoring, is a sound really doing very well? So yeah, we'll take the sound URL. That's not a sound URL. Music. In fact, we can just take maybe the name of the sound would be fine, because what often happens is a video will get deleted, and then if we just use the link, it would be very hard to find. Whereas if we take this, the song ID, it could be a much better way of doing it. I think that makes sense. Yeah, cool. Okay, let's run that again. And so now what we could also do is do a lookup field, average views, and we look up from here the average number of views. And now we could do a formula, for example. If you wait an average. So this then shows us based on average performance. In fact, maybe we'll do a check mark instead, just to make it a little bit more colorful. So it shows us which videos performed better than average. And because we're sorting by date, we can kind of see for example, this would be one way of identifying shadow bans. Like this account, what is the average here? Okay, the average is very low, but that seems to be because of the more recent videos. So it's quite a good way of seeing, like, this account was performing well. All of these were better than average. And then it kind of went through a bad patch, and then a bad patch again. Has it been shadow banned? So you could kind of build out like a warning system here, especially around here as well. Again, just performing better than average, or is it just down to the sound? This account's slow to start off with, but picking up, so good sign there. Yeah, literally just checking, does it perform better than average? What other things do we want to do? We could also check how old an account is, and then we could work out the average number of followers grown per day. Do a workday difference, seeing as we only work created time to now. Does that give us the actual? Yeah, okay, interesting. So yeah, based on how old they are, we can work out averages. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, and then I guess we can like just throw together a quick interface. I guess I'll just start from scratch. So one of my main goals at the moment is basically growing accounts up to 1,000 followers. In fact, it's my primary goal, to do live streams on OnlyFans. So I really want to kind of track that. So I want like a really good, clear overview of where every account is at. I wonder if we could also do a graph. Chart. Pie chart. Or a scatter graph would work actually. It would show us the range follower. Field summary, follower, distinct. Instead, sorry, created. Should have it the other way. Account age by follower. Age. So yeah, kind of giving a bit of a view of, do we even want an average? We can do distinct. Let's leave that out. Not that useful. So I'll come into TikToks. Follower, sorry, follower is the name of the field. Condition, follower is less than 500. We have 245 accounts. Okay. Edit conditions, let's add a condition, and let's say followers last checked is within the past number of days. Past number of days, 4. So it's going to be like up-to-date information. We're just filtering out any records that aren't that aren't up-to-date. Put that up here. 500 followers. In fact, yeah, let's have a real breakdown. 500, 600, edit conditions. Over 500. Follower less than 600. $700 to $800. $800 to $900. Okay. And then finally, do 1,000 plus. Greater than 1,000. Yeah, it would actually be better to keep these smaller. Okay, whatever. Total, bring over into this row. Total accounts tracked past 7 days. Past 4 days, sorry. Past 4 days, okay. This kind of gives us an overview of our funnel, like as we can see, like the huge majority of our accounts are at below 500 followers, which does make sense because as soon as they reach 1,000 followers, they're pulled out of this database and given to our team, to our models to start working on. But yeah, at least this gives us like a nice kind of evolution and an overview. As well, we could start to okay. Then we could also look at doing like posts done by day. I wouldn't normally use something like this, but just again for kind of demonstration purposes and to show you what's possible. This gives us an overview of how many posts were done each day in like a calendar format if you wanted something like this. I'm not going to do that, but the option is there if you want it. You could also do a timeline on again, not really for me. I'm going to do a graph of posts done by day. Sorry. Timestamp and here just field summary. Now we have an overview of the posts done each day. So 36 records, 23 records, 30 records. Of course, like we're still actually scraping the profiles. And the reason that it's very empty down here is because I only took the most recent like 20 to 25 posts from each page. So anything prior to that wasn't being scraped unless these are like very old accounts. But here I can always check if we have like a dip on any particular day. We could also look at doing like a graph and kind of breaking up the posts done by each account manager. And the way that we would do something like that is, this is going to show us who's lazy and who isn't. Not that I mean to publicly name and shame anyone. Okay, what field is that? That. Okay, let me link to an order. I'll have to find out what model it is that the team is, what field it is the team is using to track who's doing what, because I'm not actually sure off the top of my head. I don't spend too much time in this database. I think that could be why. Anyway, the way that I would do it is by doing like a graph, line graph, and you can split. We could group by team member to see how well they're doing. You could also group by model to run like a direct comparison of who is doing what. And what issue do we have here? There we go. Just make sure you always save just in Integromat crashes. I hate to sound like a teacher in school saying to save your work, but I have lost a lot of, of interesting automations that I've had to build again. In fact, let's put an error handler on there. So right now, I just need to let the scraper run a little bit more, to be honest, to be able to pull in like the larger data set you have, kind of the more interesting visual displays we can put together. And right now it's just on a pretty small scale. So let me just wait for like the scraper to kind of pull in some more details, and we'll see if we can put together some more interesting dashboards.